Welcome to Master the Process, where we break down recruiting, NIL, and the road to scholarships so families can build a real plan instead of guessing. Hi, I'm Coach Braxton Arthur, former Division I athlete and 11-year recruiting coordinator, and the owner of NIL Sense, a college planning program for athletes and their families. I'm glad you're here, so let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to Master the Process. Super excited about our guest today. You know, one thing we do is we try to bring in a number of different guests that can talk to you about different aspects of the recruiting process with so many things going on, different avenues. But today we're going to be talking about a very special topic, which is name, image, and likeness, NILs, and we're going to be talking about agents. And I know that is a hot topic in the recruiting process. So before I start rambling and talking, like I will do, I want to introduce our special guest today. Today, We're sitting down with John Baker, the founder of C6 Sports, which is based out of Dallas, Texas, right?
Yes, ma'am. Dallas, Texas.
You're a real estate agent, but
yes, I do
right
real
now
estate
with
as well.
C6, you work with contract negotiations, right?
Yes,
NIL
ma'am.
representation, you help athletes with their brand, marketing, and PR. Am I correct?
Exactly. That is correct.
So this is really some areas that we need more in-depth knowledge about because it's really big right now for our high school athletes and also our college athletes. We're going to be, just having a discussion. And we'll see where this discussion leads today.
Exactly.
But I still want to tell them a little bit more about you. I know that you serve in the United States Army. You also serve as a human resource specialist?
Yes, human resource specialist. I was able to do 2 combat tours to Afghanistan. After my second one, I was like, all right, I'm ready to go back home to mama. So I went back home to Houston. Houston's home for me.
Okay.
I grew up in the Fort Bend area, went to Fort Bend Bush.
Okay.
The late Alan Aldridge was my head coach. So, that's a little bit about myself. But yeah, I did 4 years in the Army. And then after that, I went to the University of Houston for my bachelor's.
And that's sports administration?
Yes, sports administration.
You got your master's in sports administration from Miami, correct?
Yeah, I was able to do my master's online while I was still working for the Houston Dynamo out in Houston. So I was able to get my master's fully online. But in order to become an agent, I found out that you needed to have your master's. So I was like, let me just go ahead and knock that out too. I was able to use my GI Bill for most of it. So that's why I joined the Army, to be able to use my GI Bill to be able to pay for my education.
Okay. You're the founder of C6 Sports.
Yes.
Tell me, how did that all come about?
When I knew that I wanted to become an agent, I kind of flirted with the idea of joining an agency or starting my own. But I found out that I had pretty good connections of people around me that could help me build my own team and build my own organization to be able to just, get my career started within this industry. So I do have a team. It's 4 of us right now. I have a director of football operations who was a former high school coach for 10 years out here in Dallas, Fort Worth, Wendell Reese. And then we do have 2 directors of marketing, one that specifically does content creation, and then another that also just specializes in the PR and the branding side as well. So we're a team of 4. We're getting it done. We're still small, still growing, learning a lot in this first year of doing everything. But it's been a great opportunity to start my own agency.
Do you only really work with football players?
So for right now, yes, we only do football. We do plan on branching out in the future once we get more under our belt. Honestly, real estate started me off. Even when I was at a young age, I always enjoyed hearing realtors speak about how they represented people in the process of buying their home. So, that's why I went ahead and got my real estate license. But being the middleman in between somebody's dream and then the people that are in charge of getting that dream to become a reality is just something I've always found passion in.
Okay. So let's dive into some NIL information.
Okay.
So you work right now and you're that middleman. So right now we're in a landscape where you have, depending on your state, you have NIL deals that are being negotiated with high school athletes and college athletes. And then you also have, with revenue sharing coming in effect, you have the negotiation going on with revenue sharing as well.
Exactly.
And then really the contract that is in place when we're going to talk about football right now, when a football athlete signs to play at a university. What are you seeing out there right now? I know that, you can't tell us details maybe about a
Yeah.
particular player, but tell
Yeah.
me some things that you're seeing out there in this process. Let's talk about NIL deals for high school athletes or a high school athlete that's headed into the college.
Yes. Okay. So I know for the state of Texas, we really don't have that many, high school athletes getting it. I don't know if that's going to change here in the near future. But when it comes to the guys that are coming in from high school and getting their first NIL contract with the school, it's very standardized right now. They pretty much base it based on the players that were coming in prior to and try to give them a very similar contract. But the main thing that I'm seeing that's a big issue right now is a lot of those guys aren't reading their contracts.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of information that's being put in that can really protect the school, but it's not protecting the player. So there have been situations where, I've had to recommend a lawyer to a player and a family to be able to understand that. But the biggest thing that, you really want to pay attention to, because we're in the transfer portal era of things, that there are buyouts, right? So if you receive a certain amount, but you decide to move on to the next place, just paying attention to what that buyout amount is. And a lot of them, if you're a senior in high school, you've never done a contract negotiation, you've never read these type of verbiages, you just sign up because you're excited to be, receiving something. And then you do your freshman year and then you're getting ready for your sophomore year and you decide to enter into the portal. You just want to make sure that you're protecting yourself as well. It's good to have an agent because we're connected with people that can help protect you as well.
You brought up something I wanted to ask you about because I had a family recently this year, and that was their question to me is, should I get an agent or should I get an attorney to
Gotcha.
review my information or to help me just navigate this process because they received their contract and then they were given a timeline, a quick turnaround to get that back to sign and get that back to the university. So they were in
Yeah.
panic mode.
Yeah.
So so I guess that's my question. If I sign with you as an agent, do you bring on an attorney to assist, or does the family need to have both? Do they need to have an attorney in their back pocket and then also an agent?
I think it's on a case by case scenario. There are some athletes where you pretty much know your value. I think that's the biggest thing that the agent brings to the table, outside of the connections that we have, but then just being able to help determine value is what I think is the biggest role. So that way, when we're going to those assistant GMs or we're going to those GMs and having those conversations, there are some things that are talked about that you might not want to hear directly about your athlete, So being the middleman in between that to say, hey, you know what? I hear you. I understand you, but this is our main driving point to help determine value is one thing. So if you feel like you have a strong enough case and value on your own to contract negotiate at that level, by all means, go ahead and get it done. But I would still say, go ahead and have a lawyer, you know, do a review that contract and make sure that you understand everything that you're agreeing to before you sign.
Okay. Okay. Now you mentioned the buyout in a lot of these contracts. All right. So that's understandable if I decide to go on the portal, right? I understand that. Tell me, what are you seeing when it comes to disciplinary action? Say whether it is academically or whether I actually did something that could cause some type of attention to come to the university based on an action that I did. Or do you see things like that in the contracts?
So it's really school by school that I've heard that is happening. None of the schools that I've helped assist with have had that yet. So I haven't dealt with that situation, but I have heard that it is school by school, coach by coach scenario type thing where you
Mm.
could see those things happening where you're getting, if you're late to a practice or if you're late to a meeting, that could affect your amount that you're receiving. I haven't personally dealt with those yet.
How do we help our athletes right now? I know you help them with their branding and marketing. What kind of knowledge would you give a high school athlete right now? You know they're going to sign. They're going to sign and play somewhere. How do we prepare
Yeah.
them for that?
I mean, the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now is preparing yourself before those sponsors even reach out to yourself or your agent. You know, if you can start building your network, building your following, building anything social media wise to be able to be marketable, you know,
Mm.
that's what you want to start doing now. So then that way, when those people do start reaching out, they already have something to work off of. You know, you're not starting from scratch. So don't be afraid to post whatever content that you might have. Now, again, make sure that it's something that, you know, is clean and making sure that you're aligning yourself correctly. But yes, you want to start posting and doing those things at an early age. So then that way, when you're in your sophomore, junior year of college, they already have an understanding of, okay, you know what, he might fall in this lane, she might fall in
Mhm.
that lane.
Mhm.
Just being able to start early is very important.
Yeah, I talk to families all the time about being your authentic self,
Yes.
showing the total you. You know, we think about the big deals, but you never know what companies will see you with something that you just enjoy
Yes.
that can draw their attention and can allow you to end up getting a deal with them. But it's not always what's on social media. It's also building relationships in the community as well. How early would you say that a high school athlete needs to start building their personal brand?
I would say as long as your parents are okay with that. I mean, sophomore year is probably that great middle ground of high school to start posting and then just making it known where you're trying to go. So once you start building that up, your junior and senior year, you're already progressing for when it's time for you to get into college.
Yeah, I'd say that just start building and start, just just being you. Just and trust me, our high school athletes, they love social media, so this should be very easy to
Very
do.
easy. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, and again, just making sure that you're still keeping everything clean and organized on your page and all that stuff is very important. But yes, start posting so they can see, you know, that you're serious about it.
Agents are becoming extremely big right now. I talk about it in my book. An NFL agent, you have to go through a process to become an agent,
Exactly.
where an NIL agent doesn't have the same criteria. Can you tell
That
me the difference between that? And what are the flags? What does a family like myself, what do I need to be looking out for?
I mean, it's a very touchy subject when you're talking about one compared to that because I don't want to piss any NIL agents off because
Yeah.
there are a lot that do a lot of great
Really good
work,
work.
you know.
Really good work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't want to piss anybody off. But again, when you're going through the NFL PA certification process, again, you do have to have your master's degree. You have to pass their test, and then you have to, you know, keep your certification active for a certain amount of time and make sure you're meeting requirements in order to keep that active. Now, on the NIL side, we don't have anything set up in place yet, but I could see it coming based on where the landscape is going. So I would say the main thing that you want to look for when you're looking at just a specific NIL agent is, and all the kids are doing it, they're trying to figure out who they've represented before, you know, and
Mhm.
then trying to find out who that person is and then maybe even getting in contact with that person and just finding out what their experience is, you know. And then a lot of things too that is very important is the connections with the administrators as well. So administrators might know like, hey, you know what, like I know you're thinking about going with X, Y, and Z, but you might want to consider, you know, this person because of, you know, the experience we've had conducting negotiations.
It is a sticky subject, but the main thing is that families just need to do their due diligence.
That's correct. They have to do their due diligence.
Yeah, because like you said, there are some very, very good NIL agents that they might not have their masters. They might not have, jumped through all the hoops and the regulations that an NFL or NBA agent might have done, but they are still really good at what they do. Just like I say with anything else, it's very important for parents to be involved in the recruiting process, the process of figuring out who you're going to really lean on through this process. It's
Yeah.
important having an adult to be there to help our athletes go through that. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I think that's so important right now.
I agree. And I think one of the biggest things too, just as an agent in general, if you're a real estate agent or if you're an NFL agent, NBA agent, just pay attention to the communication that you're receiving from that person, even before you sign any type of agreement, to get the representation. Just see how they communicate. And if it doesn't fit what you're looking for as far as communication from an agent, or you might not want to consider that person. But if they're on top of it and telling you things before you have to even ask, that's a big indicator too.
Let's take a quick break. 30-day recruiting launch challenge. If you have been meaning to start your athlete's recruiting process, but you just haven't, this is your moment. I'm running a 30-day recruiting launch challenge. Your family builds a real recruiting profile, creates target schools. You communicate with 30 coaches live with me, step by step, all the way. No guessing, no more waiting for someday. This is for families who really are ready to create momentum, starting right now. You can get started for as low as $47. Spots are limited. Go to nilsense.net, www.nilsense.net to get started and to grab your spot. I will see you in the next challenge.
How early should they hire an agent?
That's another big question as well. I'm a part of a agent mentorship group, and a lot of us, there's some that have been in the game, 11, 15 years, and that has changed for them over the years, as opposed to me. I'm just getting in it on this side of it. And they're saying, you know what, you might have to reach out to a sophomore or junior in high school to start building that relationship to see if they'll, accept you as their agent, because one, it's a competitive industry, but then two, just the way that things are progressing, it's like that's technically where the relationships need to start. I've already started reaching out or getting communication from parents, kids that are graduating in 2029, 28, so
Really?
yeah.
At what point do I get an agent? Does it depends on the level that I'm signing? If I know that I'm going to a Power 5, when do I know it's that time?
Again, like I said earlier, I think it's player by player type of situation. I wouldn't say
Mhm,
every single player needs a agent, and that's just my perspective,
mhm.
on the NIL side. But if you feel confident that you can go in to that assistant GM or that GM's office and really negotiate your value without having to have somebody by your side, I would say by all means go ahead and shoot, and just make sure that you have, somebody that's legally looking over the contract. But if you as a family don't feel like you can determine that value by yourself, and you feel like there's somebody that you know and trust that can help you and guide you through that process to help you get what you feel is the determined value, then go ahead and get one.
Isn't it crazy that we're even having these type of discussions now? You're saying like a sophomore.
Yeah.
It's just crazy the difference of where things have gone, the landscape of
It's
the recruiting process that
it's tough.
we're negotiating contracts. And the good thing about it is it's changing lives. Like you really and truly, you see athletes that sign and they go off to play in college and they've made such a impact in their family's life where we were not seeing that until they were going off to play professionally.
Exactly. No, I agree. I agree. And I think it's very important too to, I'm seeing the other side of it where you're getting to the end of the process. That's really where I come in on the NFL side, where there's a point where, that NIL does stop,
Mhm.
and having a plan in place is important as well for what that transition looks like, because you go from making a certain amount to now, you go through the pre-draft process, which is a whole nother aspect of it as well, where that's a very expensive process. And if you don't have the backing of a bigger agency, C6 Sports, we're just now getting started. So we're not going to take on, a bunch that we can't handle. But, if you don't have that bigger backing of these agencies, you might have to take on that pre-draft process expense by yourself. It's great to be able to have NIL to be able to fund that. But if you're not managing it properly through the 4 years or however many years of college that you're in, you get to the end of that process and then it's like, okay, well, dang, like, how am I going to get this done? And then on top of, okay, what does this transition look like if I don't make it to the next level?
I'm happy you brought that up because that was the next thing I wanted to lead into is the new rule, the 5-5-5 rule. I wanted to
Yes,
talk about that because you have some players that want to stay that extra time for the NIL money. And then at some point, like you just said, we have to transition out of that. So you have those that
exactly.
are transitioning out of that into the professional realm. And what are your thoughts about that new rule?
It's been a very big discussion amongst agents, as far as, a lot of the class of 2022 guys that graduated trying to see what they might be able to do to get that extra year of eligibility back. I hear a lot of agents trying to fight for their guys to get that year back. But then two, just I'm happy that it is 5 years and they've kind of set a certain standard, like, okay, this is what it's going to be. The transition of it is just very, I won't say murky as far as who's eligible to get it based on if you were in college already. So those class of 22 guys, it's just been something that I've been hearing a lot of conversations about. And, there's been legal stuff. So I don't know all the details about the legal side of it, but just knowing that there's agents out there fighting to get that extra year of eligibility for the class of 2022 guys has been something to see.
That rule affects different sports differently. Let's go into some more detail about NFL and just share with us about C6 and how you help families.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the biggest things that I'm seeing right now that again, it's great the platform that you have because it's really starting these kids off on the right foot. So then that way, when they get to the end of the process, there's an understanding like, hey, you have to manage this thing correctly. A lot of the conversations that I'm having right now with scouts, it's very important how you manage your NIL right now because they're using that to evaluate whether or not you're a good fit for their team or not.
Really?
It's definitely something that's being done right now to where they're saying like, hey, I'm reaching out to that admin, that administrator that's at that school or was at that school when the player was there and just finding out like, hey, so how were these conversations conducted? How did they manage themselves when they went from not having any money to now you're having a certain amount, like how did they conduct themselves, and they're paying attention to the transfer portal and seeing, okay, well, did he transfer up? Like if you were at a Division II or a FCS school, did you take the opportunity to try to move up to the highest level to compete? So it's a lot of changing things that are happening. And if you don't pay attention to it, it could definitely affect when you're getting to the end of the process and trying to decision make on whether to go pro or not.
That's some good information. That never came to me that they would actually be talking to the university about how they're actually handling themselves financially, really,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Cause
even the character. It really, it guess it shows the type of character of the athlete that you're bringing in.
yeah, I mean, and it's not just the athlete too. A lot of the conversations that I have when we're gathering who we're going to represent, it's a lot of conversations with parents now that like the parents are heavily involved in the process. And, the way that parents conduct themselves when they're doing the NIL negotiations is definitely something that gets around, when it comes time to get to that next level. So those are conversations that are had.
Okay. Well, anything else that you want to share just about NIL, the revenue sharing aspect of things, or anything about those athletes that are currently in college and they're looking at going professional?
Yeah. I mean, I think the main thing that I would say is focus on the main thing, which is being the best student athlete you can be. And then the other stuff will take care of itself. But also, like we said earlier, just making sure that you are taking the time to make sure that you're marketing yourself and then just maintaining those relationships that you're building with those administrators because you just never know who's going to turn into who. They could be at the Division III level, Division II level one year, and then the next year the next big hot shot at the SEC school. So just making sure that like you're maintaining those relationships. So if you decide to enter into the portal, and you do have an agent representing you or you don't, you're having these conversations with these people directly and you want to make sure that they're going the best way possible. So just maintain those relationships, stay professional because as much as they want to say it's amateur, it's turning into a very pro setting. So just
Absolutely.
make just making sure that, you're conducting yourself in a professional manner because it's getting evaluated all the way through. Like I'm having conversations and scouts are now like looking and seeing, hey, how did he handle that when he got that? Or, how did his family have these conversations? So it's being evaluated all the way through.
Let me bring it back to our lower divisions, NAIA, our Division III, even our junior college athletes. NIL deals for those athletes, are they available?
It's very far and in between that I've seen that it's happening. I actually been in contact with a few Division III guys that, I've tried to sign them. I've had conversations and it's very hard to understand the landscape of how they're rolling administratively because not everybody has the role of GM. Not everybody has the role of assistant GM. So finding out who those decision makers are to be able to even acquire that has been a little bit difficult on that level. But I know it is happening. But again, myself personally, I haven't done that yet on those levels.
But athletes can go out and get their own NIL deal
They can.
without going through a GM,
No,
right?
that definitely is true, especially when you're dealing with the sponsors and stuff like that. Like you can, market yourself and brand yourself enough to be able to get those deals. But when it comes to dealing with the school directly, I haven't been able to see that, on that end.
Well, we ask every single one of our guests. We have a signature question that we ask all of our guests. And so now is your time to get that question. So for families
Okay.
that want to master the college planning and recruiting process in this current new landscape, and today we really talked a lot about the NIL and we talked about the transfer portal as well.
Yes.
What is one thing you'll tell them to focus on first?
Again, I would say focus on being the best student athlete you can be, but then also just focusing on getting the best relationships that you can get with everybody that you come in contact with. Because again, you just never know who's going to turn into who or who's going to be speaking on your behalf when you're not there. So just maintaining those relationships. I know every parent wants their child to get the most that they can get, but sometimes it might be worth just holding back a little bit to be able to keep that relationship good because you got to understand the school is trying to make sure that they protect themselves, but then also they have a certain amount that they can give out on the revenue share side as well. So just making sure you master those relationships with anybody that you're coming in contact with. That would be my number one thing right now.
I love it. Relationships matter. So at the end of every show, we do an execution moment for all of our families. Today, for
Yes,
our execution moment, we want to focus on starting the process of building your brand. And it is as simple as just being your authentic self, being you
yes,
and posting consistently, being smart with what you post and keeping your social media clean.
exactly.
So very simple execution moment today is something that our athletes are pretty much already doing,
That's good. That's
but
good.
just make sure that your social media is not just showing clips of you playing, you working out. Show who you are as a leader, show who you are in the community, show who you are as a family member. What do you do with your family? And you never know, the simplest thing that you do could cause a brand to be attracted to you. You enjoy fishing
Agreed.
and you might have a brand that would love to use you to represent them because that is what they do. They are a fishing company. So
Exactly.
be you when you post and just make sure you are posting consistently and showing the total and complete you. Thank you. Thank you so much, John, for coming on today. Please
Awesome.
share
Awesome.
with our guests more about where they can find and connect with you.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and X. My direct page is Agent Baker _. You'll see real estate content and, NFL agent content as well. But then also my agency at C6 Sports Agency is all my handles on X and Instagram.
Awesome. Awesome. If you are a family and you are in the negotiation process or you know that you will be soon, reach out to C6 Sports and get that process started. So thank you so much for joining
Awesome.
us
Thank you.
today. You gave us some great information. Love it. It's very important for our families to be educated, especially in this time. There's so many different avenues, different curves, different things that are being thrown at us. But the more we know, the better we can help our athletes.
Okay.
Thank you for joining Master the Process today. Guys, go back and watch some of our other episodes. We're always trying our best to give you as much knowledge as possible to help you be successful in this recruiting process. And we will see you next time on Master the Process. Thank you for joining.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Coach.
That's it for today's episode of Master the Process. If today helped you see recruiting differently, do me a favor, follow the show, share it with a parent who needs to hear this. Remember, master the process and you maximize your opportunity. I'm Coach Braxton, and I'll see you next time.